Hey, welcome back.
Hey!
All right,
Okay.
Karri, you were telling us about the women's center.
Yeah, you were talking about, what were we talking about?
It's a different program.
Okay, yeah, so, what was I talking about? Okay, yeah, so we were, like I was saying, it was really impressed on us to be mindful and not be coming there to look for a partner.
Right.
At this point, spend your time finding a relationship with God, especially with that first year, obviously, at that point I was on staff, so I think I was eligible to date, but I was. Maybe I wasn't. No, I wasn't. I was fresh on staff, but
Were girls looking for spouses? Or was that always, I know on the men's side, maybe we talked about it, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure how serious we were.
Yeah.
What was it like on the women's side?
So the topic of men was taboo. There's no other way to put it. Yes, it was okay about the discussion of getting married, but the topic of dating and that kind of stuff, it was not something there. I had seen some situations where individuals, and I won't say names, they know who they are, had, said that they thought a gentleman was good looking and they were on staff, and I had seen implications placed on them, like they were no longer allowed to go to banquets or certain things.
Yeah.
Whereas other individuals on the Women's
Yeah.
Center were allowed to be very vocal about their feelings about the gentleman. So watching that made me extremely fearful to even speak up about how I felt or what I was going through or how I was having these feelings for him. So I really prayed, and I literally asked God to remove him. Remove him. I've tried to pray him away. I'm not even kidding you. And the more I prayed, the weirder things that happened. He would show up just weird situations would happen that don't typically happen. Like one time in particular, he showed up with the lunch car. Nobody was there. It was just me. He was there early. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? And I'm like, I call over to Sister Jana. I'm like, am I supposed to? She's like, just go get it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's like looking at me and like, just kind of the small talk, and I'm like, okay, maybe there is something going on here. And I really just kept praying, and I was like, I was like, okay, maybe I'm not crazy, and I would catch him, out of the corner of my eye, and he'd catch me, and I was like, maybe I'm just making this up in my head because that was what you could be fantasizing. I was really confused. I didn't know what the heck was going on. I'm like, am I crazy right now?
Yes.
Long story short, all of that came to fruition, and I actually remember running into you at Unity.
Oh, yeah, Unity. You were there, weren't you?
Yeah,
Unity?
Yeah.
Remember
Unity.
we went there?
And it wasn't too long after that was when the phone number thing came out.
Yeah, because the girls had their tent and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what we were doing.
I think we just showed up.
I think we just
on
walked
times.
around.
I have a picture of us, which reminds
Yes.
me, I want to get pictures from if you guys have pictures, send them or something.
From Teen Challenge?
I don't know.
I don't think I do. We weren't allowed to have cameras and stuff. I have the
I
one
think
with,
it's on
we had a couple of us wearing the hats and stuff. All of us are, I think I have that one still.
Do you want to hear a funny story?
Yes.
It was Christmas, and I was intake at this time.
Yeah.
I had went back from my resto, this was later. And it was Christmas, and I went over to drop off the women's food. And it was Christmas. I was like, oh, Merry Christmas. That's the only thing I said. And literally I got back and I got pulled in the office and someone was like, listen, I heard you're communicating with the women. We're going to ask you not to drive. And I couldn't deliver the women's food for a month. Dude.
Really?
I couldn't even go off grounds.
Yeah?
And I was like, I told her, I just said Merry Christmas. What's the deal? And they were like, no, one of the girls apparently is planning a wedding and it went a little, she was apparently, I don't know what goes on over there, but I said
Merry
it to the
Christmas.
wrong one who
Took it to the whole. But that's
That's crazy.
That's why I was so freaked out when I started.
Yeah, it was very you didn't want to. It was taboo. You didn't know what you could do and what say. I went to Pastor Bill on 2 occasions to try and date her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did he say?
He sent it up the chain to the old.
Oh, we'll see. If we
And I just never heard anything.
And I did get I got a phone call one night at prayer time from Pastor McLean, which I was pretty close with him. I spent a lot of time in his house. I spent a lot of time with Pastor. I remember so many times we would go over to the men's center to go walking.
I remember that.
Oh, that was
Really?
so awkward. Yeah, he would take me over there, and it would just be me and him, or me and him,
In the
and
chapel.
and we'd be walking around the chapel, and I remember just like, what am I supposed to do? I'm like looking at the floor. There would be men in there doing like choir practice. He's like trying to jog. I'm like, what is happening right now? Like, oh my god.
Do you think he was trying to build you up? Because one time, I ask you this because one time when I went back, I went back for a resto, and I was seriously like, I was salty, dude. Like, I was living for God for 3 years, and then
Obviously,
I fell back.
It's very humbling.
So humbling.
Yeah.
And I went in chapel one time, my first chapel back.
Yeah.
I didn't even know if he knew who I was. I know he knew me, but not
Maybe.
close. And he pulled me, he said, come up here. And he sat on stage and in front of everyone. And he just brought me next to him. He just put his hand on my leg. He's like, you're going to be all right.
Wow.
And dude, I was like choked up. Like,
Yeah.
I knew what he was doing for me. Like, he was honoring me in front of people. kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so maybe was he doing a similar thing?
Maybe, because I'm very, typically I'm a pretty quiet person, and that was one of the things I think that the women on staff at that time always would bring to my attention was like, I'm really inside myself, withdrawn, I'm a loner, and so maybe that was his way of trying to pull me out of my shell a little bit.
Yeah, out of the comfort zone.
He was always hard to read anyway,
Wasn't he?
Like, what is he up to,
What's this guy up to?
What's he doing in there,
But
Yeah.
he did bring up the topic of marriage, that phone call I got from him. I remember because I thought it was finally like the time like he was going to ask me about Brian, and like
Nope.
he didn't. He brought up the topic of about marriage, and I was like, well, do you have somebody in mind? And not to mention Josh.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
Josh.
this is not going the direction I wanted it to go. And I remember thinking, and I remember even saying something. I'm like, I'm scared to death to say anything because I'm afraid if I do say something, I'm gonna have these sanctions put on me like I've seen other people. Because
You're like, I have a different thing in mind. You were scared about saying that?
well, exactly. I was
Yeah.
scared about being honest, and I think that was one of my regrets. One of my biggest regrets was not just being honest and just taking that chance. But I mean, everything turned out the way
Yeah,
I
thank
do
God.
believe God ordained this, even though we did go about it the right way. I
Yeah.
really just because the complimentary.
We've been through some stuff together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On him. Yeah. And it was definitely God for sure.
I do believe that.
We didn't exactly do it the right way,
No.
but
It's
yeah.
funny how God will use our situations though, like when we do wrong things or sin or something, that He can still use it to show you. Like,
Good.
yeah,
It's always-
He can bring good out of it.
Yeah. Good. I always say that. We always look for. Now we do. We always look for the good. Whenever something bad happens, we're instead of focusing on the bad, right? We always try to focus on all right, well, what's the good thing that's gonna come? Because something usually good always comes. So it's just a different perspective. So
Dude, to this day, I think of advice that you told me one time. To this day,
yeah.
it was about someone else. You're like when someone's going through something, or when they're you're seeing them act out. You said it's because of something they went through, and they're that way for a reason. And when someone's frustrating, you don't think of oh, there's a reason behind this.
Yeah.
But you kind of steer me in that direction. I still think of that every time.
That's so cool.
It's compassion and empathy, and there's a story. Everybody has a story, right? So,
That's true. What was yours? What brought you to? I guess we met at Western Michigan, St. John's, but you went to
Detroit. Yeah, I graduated from Detroit.
What was that like?
Way different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess not way different, but it was a different structure. We did the classes and stuff like that, but we didn't have the work duties the same kind. Ours were more I worked in the office. We had a whole section of for fundraising. We had a database that we would monitor. So I just was almost an intern there for this guy for his name Brother Eric, I think his name was. Call everybody Brother Eric. Yeah. Anyway, so but yeah, it was interesting to say the least. Yeah, I went kicking and screaming.
You feel like you encountered Christ there?
Yeah,
or?
I did. I got saved there. It was a couple months in. I remember I was so sick. I had I don't know if it was walking pneumonia or the first or second, I think when I got there, there was no heat. It ran on a boiler system, and the boiler went out.
In the middle of Michigan.
Yeah, in the winter, right? I went in like October, November. It was like November, so it was getting cold. So we didn't have any heat for like months, like through the whole. And I just remember being in chapel, and yeah.
And your life's already like not going the way you thought.
Oh no,
You're
life
in
was
this
not
building
life
that's
was
like-
not going the way that I had thought or hoped. But you know, you do get to a point where you got to do something different. You know, and I was already there. I was like, well, you know, because like what happens is like when you're not a believer and you're around a bunch of believers, eventually you start to look at them and you see like, okay, they're happy. You start to see qualities like that you wish you had, right? Or different like attitudes and just the way that they carry themselves. So, you know, I mean, that's honestly what got me curious about it. You know,
how other people interact.
yeah, just the people like watching the pastors and you know some of the guys that had been there a while, the ones on staff, just the way that they just had a peace about them. You know, the peace that comes with you know being saved, and that's kind of what led me to it. Yeah. And it was like, if you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah.
You know, that's where I was. Honestly, like, I'm going to have to do this.
Do you remember a time that you were like, hope entered the picture, that you were like, oh, this, like, I'm doing these things, and things are getting better. And you're like, I think that my future will be better. Because that was tough for me.
I had a moment, so while I was in that program, before I went in there, before my last relapse or whatever, I did some stuff. I was a tornado. I'm a tornado, man. And yeah, so this girl, I'm not gonna say her name. She filed a bunch of charges against me for like breaking. Anyway, there was like all of a sudden I got a letter one day and I had 4 felony warrants.
Dang.
Yeah. So
In a letter?
Yeah, in the letter in Teen Challenge, right?
Oh my gosh.
And nobody had opened it and seen it. Usually they open the mail, so I had to make a decision. So long story short, I ended up turning myself in on that, and they held me, and it was $250,000 cash, no 10%.
Oh my gosh, seriously.
It was like first-degree home invasion, unlawful driving away with a vehicle. There was uttering and publishing, and then there was some other financial something. Anyway, so I was in there for, I don't even know, I was in there for probably 2-3 weeks. And then my dad got a lawyer, and he got the lawyer.
In jail?
Yeah, in Wayne County jail. Yeah, I sat in there.
Dang.
No, I mean, 250,000, no 10%. Like, you put up a house for that. My dad wasn't going to do that.
Yeah.
So we hired a lawyer. We got it dropped to 25,000, 10%. Anyway, I got out, got on a tether. I was on tether, dude. I was on tether. I don't remember how long I was on tether for. And then all of a sudden, when we went to it was like my first court day, like the arraignment or whatever. I don't know which one it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the prosecutor went and talked to the girl that filed the charges against me, right?
Yeah.
And she was like a mess. And her story was like way different and stuff like this. Like the detective did not do his due diligence because the things that she charged me with, I didn't do. I was like literally living with this girl, like breaking and entering into the house that I'm living in. I was getting mail there.
Yeah.
You know, so she came down and she said, "I'm throwing the whole thing out."
Yeah.
And at that moment, I think was when I was like, okay, yeah, because I remember just praying and trying to have hope and stuff like that. But like that moment when I was like, I realized that, okay, I'm okay.
Doesn't that seem like it happens? Like you try to make strides in your life and in your walk, and then it seems like it gets harder and worse stuff happens to you, and you're like, what? I'm doing good
Well, yeah,
now.
yes.
How is this possible?
Yeah, we talk about that a lot. Just because you're doing good doesn't mean things aren't going to happen, right? You know, it's just learning how to deal with them differently.
I need to learn that because I'm still, dude, things will happen. I'm like, I understand why it goes bad when I'm doing drugs and stuff, and it's like,
Yes.
oh, obviously, it's not
Yeah.
going to work out.
Yeah.
But then when you're like doing well and following Christ, and dude, it's still going bad, like, what's going on?
Well, what's going on?
Well, I don't know, maybe just expectations of where I'd like to be.
I think your expectations need to be changed.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, probably not. Don't put expectations on.
But, you know,
Set-
things happen.
Yeah, set sort of. I mean, you've always been a big dreamer.
Yeah.
I've always had these grand ideas, and
Crazy.
you know,
It's
just
like-
little, just like this, like little steps, man. Little, just keep being consistent. Like I never thought I would have any of this.
Yeah, so we're in your store.
Yeah.
We got an online store, but this
Yeah.
is like the
We sell on 3 marketplaces online. Started what 2 years ago?
Two
Yeah,
years
with
ago.
about a little over $300. I bought some for the Xbox, those controller charging stands. I don't know if you've ever heard of those before.
Yeah, you
They're like a
it's
charging
a
stand. You can put your
monkey
controller
or
in it.
something. He's like,
No,
No.
not even close. But anyway,
oh, okay.
you just set the controller in it and it charges it. Anyway, so I bought them. I got them real cheap. I don't remember how many
It's
I bought.
$8 a piece is what we paid on.
Yeah, and I put them up on Amazon. And
eBay too, right?
no, just Amazon
Was it
first.
just
Remember?
Amazon?
It was just Amazon.
But this is something I remember about you too, though, when we lived together.
Hmm.
That you were always you had some stuff brewing. You were drop
Oh, yeah.
shipping, or you were doing something, right?
Yeah, I was always hustling. Yeah, I did shit too. Remember?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was making a ton of money with the Living the Team Challenge.
Now
When I
it's
moved out of there, I
all-
think I had like $6,000 in the bank from like working for a month during the pandemic. Yeah, so. But
Did
yeah.
you always want to start a business, or?
Yeah, I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit. I never did well working for other people. You know, I always like to climb to the top wherever I'm at, and it becomes a problem for me because you know I like to be in control. You know what I mean? So this is just a better fit for me. You know?
Yeah.
I still do. So I still work part time at. I was telling you the Hope House. You know, helping out, and that had a lot to do with getting back in touch with like the recovery community. You know what I mean? Just because like selling shoes is great, but like there's really nothing recovery related here. Giving back what we have is the best way to keep it. You know what I mean? So I needed a feel good job. So.
Yep.
Do you think you went after this type of work based on things you've gone through in life? So I've noticed, like I've learned things from going through stuff.
Well, yeah.
You clean shoes, refurbish them. Like, is that because you've been clean? You know, that's why I'll go to thinking. Like, oh,
Are you
you
using
know
like
that.
a metaphor, like a
Kind of, yeah.
I guess you could. I don't think that's why I did that. But yeah, I don't know.
But you saw value in something that maybe
Yeah.
other people wouldn't see value, and that's how I always felt about myself.
Mm-hmm.
Is that places like Teen Challenge, they saw value, or like really it's the community of God. It's like the community of believers. They're like,
Mhm.
no, you're valuable, even though
We're
you know,
all
I'm strung
valuable.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're all valuable. You know, we're addicts, but that's not who we are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just something that it's a way that we became because of things that happened to us or chemical imbalance, however you want to say it. But you know, typically it's just some things that you've been through that have caused you to go down this path. You know, you're hiding from something, or you're trying to cover up an emotion, or whatever, or forget something, and that's the only way. You're uncomfortable, right? So you want to be comfortable, and the way that you know how to be comfortable is to get high. And that's basically the science behind it. So it's just learning to be comfortable in uncomfortable moments. So, and it's hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's hard. And I don't think it ever gets easy, like not hard.
Yeah, what's stopping you from living that way now? Or like, you know, what is?
Well, I
Is
have
there
so much to
something-
lose.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So a big thing for me is, when I got married and was able to start building a business and building a reputation, and you know, I'm still working on visitation rights with my kid. That's a battle that we're going through, you know. But because of this, I've been able to finally afford an attorney, and
Yo, people have committed to praying to this podcast, so we could ask, dude, that
Yeah.
they
Yes.
could pray for this to happen. That'd be a cool thing. to
yeah,
see.
yeah,
Everybody
great.
watches.
Yeah,
pray
so
for
we
that.
have a court date July 7th, and
We're praying for
Um,
visitation before that.
visitation before then, but because of the state I was in when I signed some of the original motions agreements when I left, I was very early in my recovery,
Yeah.
and I just wanted to see my kids, so I signed
I'll do
basically,
anything.
yeah,
Yeah.
whatever, and it basically gave my son's mom basically all the power to do it as she pleases, right? So I don't really have any power, so we're going in to try and remove that, and so do a new motion, right? So let the judge and the courts decide what's best for him, not necessarily what she thinks is best for him. So
Has she seen any of the change in him?
No.
Like, no.
no, she is.
She
We
doesn't
don't-
want to, or like.
I don't know. That's that's between her and God, I guess. But
This seems like a far, or like a long distance from where you came.
yeah, it is. Yeah. So, but the bad part is like I talked to my attorney and he said it doesn't matter how good you're doing, because you signed this agreement this long ago. You have to. That's what's wrong with the whole court system is. You know what I mean? Bleep. You gotta pick that out. But you know what I mean? Like just because I signed this so long ago, it doesn't matter what state of mind I was in, that I didn't have counsel representing me, that I was in rehab. Like they don't take into account any circumstances. It's just paper signatures. You know what I mean? You signed it, so there's that. You know?
Yeah.
So it's like where's the empathy?
I was just thinking recently how different you'd live your life if you thought you were dying soon.
Yes.
Like, that's what we were doing. Like I never thought I'd have a future, and like it kind of shaped everything I did. Like you'd live differently if you thought the world was ending tonight. Like
Yeah.
especially if you're in your mess, you're gonna go wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can see why that stuff like from those times
Mm-hmm.
still impacted.
Yeah. God, what would we do? I don't know. We go on some. We'd probably go to Alaska and see what it is.
If the world's gonna end.
Yeah. We'd have to go see mine somehow if we have to kidnap him or whatever.
That's what we would take.
Probably shouldn't say that.
So Karri, you have kids too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many kids do you have?
I have 3.
And they're in Alaska.
Yes.
You should tell that story.
Yeah, what's this process like? Or like,
So this
It's a good
is
story.
all right. So I have 3 children. My oldest is 21, my middle is 19, and my youngest is
Yeah.
17. So yes, I have 3. And in my mess, I lost custody, and like that's a whole nother story. But that
Yeah,
God
that's for a
worked
different
in that whole
podcast.
situation. I'll tell you what. Like looking back now, I couldn't see it then, but I can see it now. And they were raised in a Christian-based home way before I was saved. My kids were saved and all together. And they know the Lord, and they're like really amazing children.
They're great kids.
who brought that dynamic in?
The lady that adopted
Yes,
them.
they were
Okay.
adopted. They went
Yeah.
into the
Christian
state's
family.
custody.
Oh,
Yeah, and they
okay.
were ended up in a Christian family,
Yeah.
kept
All
all
together, all
together.
3 together. So that's
Wow.
cool.
So they were raised in the life that I eventually would understand.
Mhm.
Isn't that crazy?
That is cool.
Yeah.
So, long story short, I had not seen my children since they were 5, 3, and 1.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So you haven't seen them since?
I hadn't. I
Hadn't?
hadn't. And I had only had one phone call with my middle son one time for like 20, 30 minutes, if that, and it like turned into this whole thing. And so I've been praying for this for years, and I never thought it would come to fruition. And like last year, Brian has like reach out to your children, and I was like, still praying, very insecure about it, and he kept saying, just keep reaching out, and he reached out, and finally,
Through Facebook Messenger.
my
Nice.
son
Yeah.
reached back and said, basically, I want to meet you. Okay, Sarah, I'm sorry. That I think about you, I want to meet you, and if you are willing to come to Alaska, I'll meet you. And Brian's like, well, we're going to Alaska.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
what? Like, how's that even possible? And I was still on parole at this time. You gotta remember, I hadn't
Yeah.
been back since, and me in Alaska, not
You
good.
weren't on parole, you were on probation.
Probation.
Yeah.
And so I didn't think that was going to get approved. We got that approved, and we went up there, and I thought we had very minimal communication with my son, and I wasn't sure like what it was going to be. I was prepared for anything. I was just happy.
Yeah,
to
we were only
meet
supposed to
him.
meet just him.
Just him is what.
And this was when? This was in
August.
August last year.
Right.
Just last
Yeah.
Recent.
Yeah.
Yes. So I thought we were only going to meet him. We didn't know where it was going to go. So we got there, met with open arms, went so good, and he literally, my middle son, unbeknownst to me, had been speaking with his siblings.
Yeah.
So not only did we see him, but the very next day we got to meet my other 2.
Yeah.
No, but my daughter, which she was very reluctant, hesitant.
Yeah,
Met with
she's the
his
youngest.
adoptive family, his adopted little brother on top of it, and it turned into this whole thing where I ended up actually meeting all 3 of my children.
Wow.
I got to meet my daughter-in-law, who is now pregnant, and my
We're
oldest
gonna
is
be
married. Yes, we're going to be
Yeah.
grandparents.
Yeah.
September.
Yes, a little
Congrats.
baby boy.
Wow.
But
Gotta
it,
call me Poppy.
grandpa.
Grandpappy.
But
You're
yeah,
gonna be a grandpa.
That's right.
never thought that would happen. And I just think it's so cool that, God put them in a Christian home. What are the odds of that for children going into custody, into social services, for one, to end up in a good home, for two, all 3 together, and to be raised.
So well, they're good
Yes,
kids.
they're great kids.
Before you even knew the value of what that meant.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Whoa.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yep. So we go back again in June 1st. We're going for another week. So
Nice.
yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
What was that process like? Say you were in your bunk at team. Do you have bunks over there? I don't know.
Yes,
They
we
had-
have a bed.
They had like their own like apartments.
That
Yeah,
was
what
not
the-
staff. That
Yeah,
was
we had
staff.
like these little weird bunks with like the. Remember Levon?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna talk to him soon, by the way.
Are you?
Yeah.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
Oh
Talking
man,
to everyone.
Oh, that's
that's
so cool.
I gotta see that. Isn't he like running the joint now?
I don't think he works there anymore. He doesn't work
Really?
there. Yeah, he might. Maybe a year ago.
No.
He did, yeah.
By force?
I'm not sure what happened. I think he was there for a while. He was getting ready for review and stuff.
Yeah.
So you know how they do with like hiring.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah. Anyway.
We'll talk to him. We'll get his side of the
Yeah,
story.
Levon, we're coming for you.
That's right. Huh? So you're in your bunk bed, and like where you said you prayed about that stuff. Like what were
Oh.
those prayers like? Or
I mean, I just remember, I remember being pregnant with my kids and not knowing God. And I remember I would just pray. I'm like, God, just watch over them. It was a very specific prayer I prayed every night.
in your mess?
Yep, in my mess, before I knew the Lord, I knew there was a God. I didn't know Jesus. I didn't know how all that worked.
Whoa.
I had no clue. But I remember just like asking God just to give them a life, no mental or physical disabilities, and they live a long, happy life. And I remember just being in Teen Challenge and praying and just, asking, like, I just wanted to know if they didn't want something to do with me or if they did. That's all I wanted to know, because I didn't know if they hated me. And I just remember time and time again, and it was a really hopeless feeling, because I didn't have a clue. I had no clue if they wanted anything to do with me or not, because it was just so much
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah, what, like 15 years?
15 years, they did not, they were so little, do they remember me,
Yeah.
I remember just asking God, like, I want to know what their voice sounds like. The things that you take for granted, like, I don't even know what their favorite food was, or color, or what they're into, or, their personalities. How did, I don't know, like, their struggles. I'm not, I just remember asking God, like, just somehow open a door. Never thought it would happen.
That's awesome.
Kick that sucker open.
Yeah, we reset. I remember after the second visit when we seen the mom and my daughter, I remember we just sat in the car for like a couple seconds, and I was just like in shock. We both were
Yeah.
just like, I can't believe how good this went. I can't
Taking it
believe
all
it went
in.
so
Yeah.
good. Like, we had no clue.
No, we just kind of went down our blind.
Mm-hmm.
Were there other women in the program going through similar things?
Lots of different women going through losing their children. Same thing, praying for restoration. I've seen a lot of restoration. Different challenges. So it was a comfort knowing that there was many other people that were in my very similar situation, and had either lost their children or waited, so many years for restoration. It's kind of like, you're so excited. It's hard to explain. You hear those stories in Teen Challenge so much, but you never expect that you're going to have that same story.
It actually happened.
Yeah. And that's, I think that's like the gist of Teen Challenge, is like you hear those stories and you're broken and you're so just desperate, and you're like, you're so excited for that person, but you just don't believe it's going to happen. But there's some part of you hoping, and then next thing you know, whether it's a year from now, from the beginning of your program, or 5 years, you're like, wow, now I have that same, it did happen for me. If that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
It does. Did you feel like as you got later in the program, you were able to help some of the other girls going through a similar thing, or did you see that?
I do. I do believe I was able to help a lot in that area, and I think I helped a lot in their area, but I think my biggest impact that I had on the women was helping women with their self-esteem. Like women, all women really struggle, especially when you go into a program, like just feeling terrible about yourself and just, knowing that feeling and having this hatred for yourself, and to be able to go from that and help give that back and help other people find their own value and their worth, loving themselves. I don't know, I'm rambling.
So you'd say most of the women are going through similar...
Oh yeah, similar
insecurities. The men do too. We all do.
I guess we don't realize that you guys, women, I don't know. I never thought men had that same insecurity like women do.
Maybe not exactly the same, but we definitely have insecurities. We've been, in a mess for so many years. Like you don't like anything about yourself. You know what I mean? So it's very easy to be insecure and uncomfortable.
Do you remember a time when your inner talk started to change? You felt God was like some of those, you tell yourself things about yourself, like insecurities. But then when someone starts speaking differently over you, and then you're like, oh, you know what? I'm not a drug addict. That's true. Or I'm not, or I'm being negative about a situation. Really, I am hopeful. Or I know.
Yeah, I think that happened. I think that happened way after I left the gym.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that happened in the last couple of years. Just I'm an addict, but I don't, you know what I mean? It's not who I am or anything like that. I think that's what it was. It was, it becomes your identity after a certain point. You know what I mean? Everybody just knows you as the addict.
Yeah.
They won't say that, but they do. They hide their person when you come over, and and that stuff takes a while to not happen anymore. But you just carry yourself a little bit differently. So I think it's just about building a life and having things you can be proud of and stuff like that, and that kind of fills those holes that we used to fill with drugs. So
I think you said that about hiding the purse and stuff.
Yeah.
I think part of the reason why I did this podcast is because I got to see everyone when they were at their best, and I knew that other families weren't seeing them there. They didn't. I know because my family, they've seen hurt and pain.
Yeah.
But I wanted them to know, no, look at the guys who I've been hanging out with. God has got a hold of them, and I just know that. I don't know how to put it, but there's more to us than being that.
But people don't. They don't my kid's mom. She only remembers that guy.
Yeah.
From 7 years ago. That
she doesn't know the heart that you're working with guys and hold
he doesn't.
Still. Or,
no. I think she knows that, but she doesn't. That's just in her brain. That's just who I am. I'm always gonna be the guy that fucks up and comes in and out of his life and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think of Paul Gulick. Did you know Paul Gulick?
I didn't know him, but I remember the name.
Yeah, he passed away, and I remember him having trouble with his family, and I thought, wow, they'll never know the Paul that I knew. He was encouraging to me and loving and he had problems, but we all did.
Yeah. And that's who he really was. That's who we really are. Underneath it.
Dang, I want to show that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting, huh?
Interesting.
Yo, so what about business and Christianity?
Business.
Yeah, maybe you guys can both talk about this, or
that's tough to kind of mingle it.
Yeah.
But it does help because we do just always treat people really well. We always bless when we can.
Yeah.
We've given away plenty of shoes. But I don't really know. We haven't we've only had this store open for a year, so as far as business and Christianity, it's just having integrity, I guess.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just living right, not being schemy.
Yeah.
Schemy.
Plotting and planning.
Yeah. Clever and all that. And doing it the right way. You know what I mean? Just there's nothing illegal going on here.
No.
You know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah.
So and then I think the biggest thing for us has been our marriage. having a biblical marriage,
Oh yeah.
traditional biblical marriage. Like we both are very. That's a big part of our marriage is just biblical. You know, we right off the Bible, and it works, man.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
God, you know what I mean? Like it's in there for a reason. It really does work. You know.
Yeah. And did you ever think you'd have something like
No.
that?
No. Remember,
No.
what was it? Christian Families? Was that the class?
Christian Families.
I can't think of the name.
I didn't-
Remember the class we
Yeah.
took with
Oh, yeah,
Pastor
Christian
Dave?
families, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember sitting in that class and like I took so many notes, and I always remember like when he was talking about the man being like the covering and the head of the household, and like the different working parts of the marriage and how it's supposed to work. You know, the man, the wife, and then the kids, and the different. And I like something in my brain clicked because I was married before, I was previously married, and that was not a biblical relationship. And I've always had a tendency to be, I'm in control. I'm going to figure things out.
Mhm.
Very separate, very dominant, not submissive, not compromisable, which I really, when I came into the teen challenge, I literally was like, I'm going to do everything completely opposite to the way I did it before. And so going into this marriage, I really did. I was like, it was not as hard as I thought it was going to be, but I really, I wanted Brian to fill that role and step back, and I enjoy doing the biblical wife role.
Yeah.
And it's not what people think. It's not like, oh, you know, you do
Do
as I
this, do
say.
that.
It's
Yeah.
not
Scrub that
any,
floor.
yeah, it's
No.
not like that at all. But having him as, you know, the final decision maker, and there are times where I get fearful, and that's just my own insecurities, my own crap coming back, but it works because I allow Brian to have that role, and I enjoy it. I
Yeah.
enjoy being a biblical wife. I'm very happy. There's freedom in that, and comfort, and a security in this marriage that I've never felt in any other relationship.
Wow.
And as a man, it fulfills something in you that, you know, I didn't know that I needed. You know what I mean? Like a man needs to work and provide and
And
have
outlet.
and have a purpose and a value. And, you know what I mean? And a reason to get up every day and go to work and make the money. You know what I mean? To support what we have. I mean, we always work together. You know, I'm no better than, you know what I mean? There's no I'm better than her. That's not what it's about. It's just like a mutual respect for each other, and you know what I mean, and like trust is a big thing. Yeah, trust and respect, and then communication. Communication's the biggest thing that I think most relationships that I've been in didn't have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So many things can be avoided or fixed quickly with communication.
This is what I was thinking. This is this. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, if something's wrong, we talk about it. You know what I mean? Because if you don't talk about it, then you're just one person's got their own idea of what's going on, and the other person, you know, it's just bad. You know what I mean? So that's.
Whenever the idea of like submission comes up as a Christian, I feel like the outside world kind of has a view on us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
submission.
But I think that everything the woman is called to do, to be submissive to the man, the man is called to be submissive to God for those same exact things.
Exactly.
So you never have like this, do this, like
Yeah.
'cause I'm being, you know.
Yeah, we're
I've
not
got
like
someone to
the
answer
kings.
to.
Yeah, they're just taking it out of context, and that's fine. They can believe what they want to believe, and we know what works for us. And,
Yeah.
you know.
Where does like your past fit in? Because I'm nervous when starting a relationship that like I got a lot of stuff that like I've done some stuff, you know.
Yeah, we all have,
And
man.
I'd be worried to, maybe not worried, but maybe how did you guys handle that? Like
You mean as far as like both being addicts?
just like, dude, I did some things that like I'd be nervous to tell you about.
Yeah.
Oh.
It
You know, especially new dating or something.
well, obviously, new dating, you might want to wait a little bit before you just lay it all out there.
Yeah.
But if somebody really loves you, they're gonna look past that.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if it's another addict, they know that you have shit.
Oh, you were
I'm sure
surviving.
they do too.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And I didn't tell her everything up front. You know, it took time for me to, you know, divulge certain things. And, you
Yeah.
know.
Were there some that you were like, I might not share this. I mean, not like keep a secret from, but like until we get to a certain point, like.
Yeah,
it
of
might
course.
be there.
Yeah, of course. Because I've never been a good communicator in a relationship. Like I like to just shove it down and fix it myself, and you know what I mean. And it's hard, but you just got to find the right person. I mean, she's a great listener, so.
Yeah.
And she doesn't freak out too much.
Yeah.
You know, if I tell her something that I did bad.
8 out of 10 times you're gonna get a good response.
Yeah. You know what I
It's
mean?
good odds.
Yeah. The problem is like I think as addicts, like we're so used to like feeling like we're in trouble all the time.
Oh.
So being honest is hard. It's scary. It's almost like PTSD, right?
Yeah.
So we're like every time in the past we were like honest about something really bad
It
happened.
didn't go well.
It didn't go well. And if enough times, and if that happens enough times in your life, naturally become, that's just your triggers to just immediately
Dishonest.
deny and
Yeah.
it's easier just to like hope it goes away and stuff like that. And that's
Never thought about
I think that's the biggest issue that I still work on to this day, but that I've brought into the marriage was my, I was very, I wasn't always truthful. You know, I was very I could be deceiving. You know,
Out of survival.
basically,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's not like a deceit,
Yeah.
so you could go be
No,
debauchery.
no. You know, it's always stupid ass stuff too. You know what I mean? It's like, why am I lying about that?
Yeah.
You know, but that's the thing, and it's just something that over time you know. And I told her, like we had a conversation, communication, like I said before, like, hey, this is part of the reason why I don't always like be honest up front. Oh man.
That's alright. I had to shut off because I was sweating.
You know, be honest up front is because I'm always worried about the reaction. I've been in past relationships where, you know, everything was a blow up. You know what I mean? So she heard me, and so she makes it a point to, if I'm telling her something that's difficult for me to tell her, she's very, very aware of how she's going to respond, and she handles it really well. She knows that's what's going to help me heal and help me be a more honest person going forward. So we just help each other. You know what I mean?
Help me.
I've heard people say, like, never date another addict. It's like,
Yeah, I've heard that too.
yeah, but why? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, if you're gonna go get high together,
Yeah, don't do it.
You know what I mean? But
I knew that I was really open to talking to Teen Challenge girls because I knew they were strong. Because I knew what I went through for that year. First of all, I mean, in my past too. But that year is hard.
It's hard.
And so if I knew that a girl went through it and she's being trained and like taught and biblical
Yeah.
things, like I really wanted that.
yeah, you're on the same page already. You know, it's like
Yeah.
you already know what you're working with.
But I've gotten a lot of don't ever date that. Was there ever that, by the way, in the women's center too? Because at the men's center, sometimes be like, those women have gone through some things too.
Yeah.
And I know we did too. So I was always like, well, I'm them. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was, you know, like especially the biggest thing I think with the addiction part is if you're going to date someone that has a addictive past, be mindful that you guys don't have the same preferences in drugs.
oh, one's upper, one's
So
down.
you know that
Like
was
we-
always kind of
We like different things.
we
Yeah.
we had two completely different drugs of choice
Yeah.
as our problem, so that made it a little bit easier for us.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that we aren't still always at risk of, you know, one bad
Mm.
choice away from a relapse.
We all are. Everybody
Exactly.
is just one precious.
Mm.
It's just a little harder because we don't go the same direction, which it,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Because that could be a potential issue. It's like if I
Absolutely.
have a vulnerability and you have that same one, or
And you both have a bad day.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we should get out of here.
harder to pull someone
Yeah, you
out
know.
if they do slip too, you know, because if someone slips and it's the same thing that you like to do, it's way easier to say, well, F this, I'm gonna join you, versus, hey, we're gonna walk through this, we're gonna pull out of it, we're gonna do X, Y, and Z
Mhm.
to get you away from that.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think there were times. I think when I started looking to date and I was not doing well, like I saw where I could have made a positive impact and I didn't.
Mm.
It was like it both kind of.
Hindsight, man.
Yeah.
It's always 2020.
By the way, in hindsight, how would you describe Teen Challenge? Like, what would you even say it is?
That's tough, man. I mean, like one word or.
I described it as just to give you a community of believers.
Yeah.
Maybe in like similar mindset, like-mindedness,
Yeah.
getting together for one purpose.
That's good.
Because I know it's more than like a program.
Yeah, it's you're being rehabilitated. You're almost being brainwashed. In a good way.
In a
though.
way, yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? You probably need it. If you're there, you need something washed out of your brain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You
Power
know,
wash.
something. Yeah, for sure. For a couple days, probably it was. But yeah, I always speak highly of it.
Me too.
I mean, it was a hard program, and there was a lot of times that I definitely didn't want to be there, and a lot of things that I didn't agree with.
Same here.
You know what I mean? But like,
It
it
works.
saved my life.
Yeah.
You know, not the program itself, but well, the program gave me, you know, the opportunity to meet God and get saved and all that, all stuff that like I don't think I ever would have done on my own.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Who knows? But
Yeah.
you know what I mean. Who knows how many more years I would have been out there.
How did you guys hear about it, by the way?
My mom actually told me. So my mom, we grew up Catholic, and my mom got really, as my addiction got worse and worse, she got back into her faith a lot more, and was always praying. And you know,
Same, by the way.
I just started going in. I went through a really bad, you know, little run, in and out of like psych wards and this and that. And eventually, I just was like, okay, fine, I'll go. And she dropped me off, yeah. So she had heard about it, and that was it. I was there for a year.
What about Alaska? How do you hear up
Ah,
there?
so when I did my long stint in prison, there was several different programs there, and I was in one of them, and I had this particular counselor, Christine Google.
You were in prison?
Christine, oh yeah, she
Yeah,
did.
I did six
She's
years.
6 years.
She's a
oh my
badass.
gosh. Yeah.
She talked to, you know, she was my counselor. She worked really closely, and she, you know, helped me a lot. But she always said, you know, I'm really concerned about you need more. And like, she always talked about teen challenge, but there was no teen challenges at that time in Alaska, and I think there is now. But I think there was like one either coming or one that was just started up there right before I got released to go to Michigan. But I just remember it always stuck with me because I mean I've done what now. That was my fifth or sixth long-term program, and
Yeah,
I just
she's done a lot
it
of
stuck
that.
with me. And when my sister moved back down to Michigan, and I have a lot of family that lives down here. I don't know, when I went to jail this last time, I was just like, teen challenge. That's all I kept, and literally that's all I kept saying every day to myself was like, I'm gonna go to Michigan and I'm gonna go to teen challenge. And there was absolutely no logical reason why that was even a possibility, but it happened. Totally happened. And
Dang.
here I am.
Here you are.
But yeah, I mean, you're talking way back from like 2006, 7. And I heard that and it stuck with me all those years.
That's wild. Yeah, seeds planted.
Yes.
Teen challenge. I'm like, all right, teen challenge.
People always get confused when I tell them like what it is. You'd be surprised by people who've never heard of it.
Yeah.
Because I work in the
They're
whole
like, aren't
house.
you an adult?
Yeah, adult and teen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then I have to explain it. And they're all like, oh. They're still confused.
Right.
Never mind.
Is there anything, I guess you guys would like people to know about being a Christ follower, coming from a world of where you came from? Something to kind of end on.
Yeah. Let me think on it for a second. What about you? You got anything good right off the top of your head?
Your marriage, relationship. That's a cool thing about this
Yeah.
dynamic here. It's nice.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to finding a purpose. I think you got to find a purpose because I think we all have like I call it a hole, right? We have this hole in us that we're always trying to fill. We filled it with drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling, whatever it was. And I think you just need to find something like a passion or something that fills that hole. You know, gives you that purpose back, makes you comfortable, makes you proud. Like I'm proud of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I don't that hole that's there. You know, don't get me wrong. I still struggle sometimes. You know, with thoughts and stuff. And, I'll never be perfect, but yeah, that hole is filled. You know, between that and then I'm accountable to somebody now. You know what I mean? It's not just me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that I do affects her too.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing too, when you get married too. Especially since I was always a selfish person.
Yeah.
I'm still selfish. But I'm working on it. Right?
All fine.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a big thing too, is just getting in a relationship and just learning how to have a healthy relationship. That's that's what I would say, like people as they leave a program, is just to find a purpose and always have a plan and keep the structure. Like we thrive on structure. You know.
Routine.
I think everybody does.
Routine's
You
a
know.
very important thing.
If you can find a good structure and a routine, take care of yourself. You know? You have to take care of your body. If you gotta feel good, you'll find any reason you can to feel better when you don't feel good. You know what I mean?
True.
And the quickest way to feel better is
Sunshine in your pocket.
what we knew.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's so easy to go back, and it's so hard to crawl out of. So
True.
yeah.
You
Karri?
know, the biggest thing I think is people say prayer a lot, prayer, and don't stop talking to God. Whether you don't believe or you do, or you are a new believer, it's not these big elaborate, not that there's anything wrong with that, I'm not saying there is, but just throughout your day, if you're having a bad moment, it might sound crazy, but just, I struggle when I'm driving. I get really angry at people and have road rage, and I say some things that I should not say.
Yeah.
And just stopping in that moment, and this is just an example of being like, okay, God, I'm really sorry. That was really stupid coming out of my mouth, and just don't stop communicating with God, and don't stop believing, even the littlest thing. I remember just the littlest things I would say to him, like, moving down here to Michigan. I remember saying, God, there's a way, bring me a teen challenge. I don't want to be a heavy drug user anymore. Don't stop talking to God. It doesn't matter how you talk to him. There isn't a right or wrong words. Just keep talking to him and keep believing for the things that are good for you in your life, and then line up with his word, like getting clean, or your loved one getting clean, or even for your spouse. There's nothing wrong with asking God for your spouse and being specific down to things that because that was one thing I did pray. It was like what I really wanted in a relationship, and
Guy with two
this
thumbs.
is what I ended up with, and I'm grateful.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful.
It's because she's on camera.
I will say, Brian,
Yes.
one thing I have maybe respected or admired about you, and it's the same thing I admire about my own brother, is the consistency. No joke, I remember seeing you in the staff lounge every morning. You had your Bible and your coffee.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing that and thinking like, dude, I need to be better, first of all. Like, it made me want to be better. But, and just how you carried yourself around the guys was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I knew you were a leader by just what you did, even your movements, But then also there was a time when I had fallen, again. Like, dude, I got messed up, back up in the stuff I was in.
Yep.
And I remember you had texted and just said like, hey man, I went through some stuff too.
Yeah.
And you kind of like, I knew you were there when I knew.
Yeah.
So.
We all go
Something
through
like
stuff
that.
like that. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's just, and I don't do that anymore. I don't get up and read the Bible anymore and do that thing. But there's other things that I do. And I think it's important to remember too, is like when you leave that structured environment of Teen Challenge, if any graduates are watching this, when they get out, don't focus so much on the ritualistic part of it. Anything, you can have church anywhere, with anybody, you can pray anywhere, you can talk to God anywhere, just Christian music, it's all just a mindset, right? And if you're in that right mindset, you'll always keep that connection. And I backslide sometimes, but you can just come back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's all it is. You just remember that peace that you get, that you have when you know you have the Holy Spirit like really like upon you. That peace. Remember the chapels, some of them where it's just like
Time stops.
oh man, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I miss that. But you can still get some moments like that here and there if you just keep that that connection open, and yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for doing this. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
It was
And,
fun.
Yeah, I love you guys.
Yeah, I love ya. My bill's in the mail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
What do you think?